The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 Pebble Beach Pro-Am DraftKings picks and preview. If you want to help out the show, easy. Smash the like in the comments section. Tell me your two favorite plays in the $6K range. Simple enough. You want to get into a draw for $100 American dollars? Easy again. Hit the description. You'll find the links to daily fantasy sports, picks, and bets. The Mix. It's a new podcast by Mayo Media Network. Sometimes I'm on it. I do a one and done show on Wednesdays that you can check out. It's like 10 minutes. All the shows, very short form. But if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts in particular, download the episodes, obviously, but leave a 5-star review, your Twitter handle, or your email address. Say something nice about the show. You're in the draw for $100 US. Jeff and I will be giving away the winner on next Monday's Pat Mayo Experience, talking about Riviera. If you emailed the Pat Mayo Experience at gmail.com after yesterday's show, you may have heard back from my assistant already. If not, she'll get back to you soon enough. We're all good on that front. And fantasynational.com. You got to use it. Come on, people. I'm urging you to use it so you can have some good lineups out there. You know, you be like me. You'd be like, oh, I'll generate all my lineups and they'll be looking good, but I'll hand make my one for the larger contest and lose all your money. That's what happens. FantasyNational.com/Mayo gets you the 20% off simulator, lineup generator, all the stats you could ever possibly want, all up there right now. Check it out, FantasyNational.com. Again, everything just in the description. People never look at the show notes or the description. A lot of good stuff in there, like if you want to vote in the Custy Awards, that's down there as well. If you want to see how to properly spell Rick Gehman's name, it's down there as well, from RickRunGood.com. It's Rick Gehman. What's up?
Pat, yes, many people do misspell it. Also, I too work hard on, the description is like all the questions we know you're going to ask. We've already answered them 100 times. We've put the information in the description. Check that out first before you tweet at me. That's kind of how I treat my descriptions.
The problem is, like, I'm guilty as a consumer of not looking at the description of anything as well. I'm just letting people know that sometimes there's like hilarious information down there.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff. I do read the descriptions. That is a pet peeve of mine. So I'm glad that you've got it filled up with all the pertinent information, all the good stuff. You love to see it.
How are you doing in the one and done so far?
I'm actually doing okay. So I believe I'm in the cashing position currently in both the big boy and also in the 1K. So
you played the 1K. Look at you, money bags.
Oh yeah, I'm in like 6th or 7th, whatever like the last payout spot is. That's where I'm at. So I had Webb last week, which unfortunately went awry, but Xander not winning helped. I think there was only one person in the 1,000 with Brooks, and then the fact that Berger missed the cut helped. So yeah, off to a pretty good start. What is this? Four events in?
Yeah, 4 events, and I double barrel. I have the 2 entries in the race for the Mayo Cup. I use Hideki in both. Big mistake, because I had Brooks initially selected. But I'm still in the money in one of them, and I'm just outside of the money in the other one. So, I got to get a winner somewhere along. Having Patrick Reed at Torrey really kind of helped out the one team where it has like 1 win and like 3 miscuts or 3/40ths or something stupid like that. But DJ withdraws from Pebble Beach. That adds to like Matt Kuchar, Luke List isn't playing, Sebastian Munoz isn't playing. They're pulling guys out from like the mid-aughts to enter this field of 156. Killed the odds. He was 4-1 or plus 350 depending on where you look. You, sir, were savvy enough to grab Patrick Cantlay and Daniel Berger in that moment between DJ withdrawing and betting sites not taking him off the board. So you got good numbers on those guys now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you really got to pay attention. Some of these books just let those numbers hang in there for even 20 minutes, which is an eternity in our world. So I just quickly snatched up Patrick Cantlay. I snatched up Daniel Berger. I think I got Cantlay at 10-1. He's now down to 7.5. I think I got Berger I think I got him at like 18. I think he's down to 15 or 12, depending on where you're looking. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Obviously, it's not every day that you even get a 4-1 guy in the field, let alone then he withdraws and craters everything. So I felt it was necessary to grab the next 2 that I thought took the biggest share of win equity.
Do you think you could ever bet a 4-1 golfer in a field of 156 players, especially at like these courses where they're super short and everyone's kind of live?
No, and also like a 2-course rotation is even more volatile, and just like no, I mean I tried to figure out, and my resolution for 2021 was like play more Dustin Johnson, bet Dustin Johnson more, because I never seem to have enough of him, and he finds a way to win however many golf tournaments he's going to win a year. But 4-1, my God, I mean that we are getting closer to Tiger Woods numbers. I went back and looked at Tiger Woods even 2008. It was basically he was like minus 110 in some of those fields, which is honestly probably good value with what he was doing back then. But DJ at 4-1 with how volatile golf is, how deep it is. No, I would never have pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, the course rotations is really kind of the key, because you could play Pebble on Thursday and Pebble gets wiped out by the wind. Then you play it the next day. It's the easiest course alive. So there's 2 courses this week. We lost Monterey Peninsula, which is historically the easiest of the 3 courses. No amateur partners, so we get like realistic rounds this time around. So Pebble Beach has been lengthened by like 200 yards from 68 to like 70 and a half. And Spyglass is up like 100 yards from 69 to 70 and a half as well. I assume that has to do with there's no amateurs around. There's no infrastructure that you have to put in. You can make the holes a little bit longer, but half the players are going to play one course one day, then they're going to switch on Friday to the next one. Then both of the rounds are at Pebble Beach on the weekend. And I wrote about this in my column up on DK Nation this week. And I know it's for such a small segment of people, but having 3 rounds of like shot link data is so big for us.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah. And you're going to get guys who play shot link course like back to back, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like 3 consecutive rounds. It's awesome. And then when you go back and you want to look next week at what guys did last week, and you have an extra round of shot link data, yeah, it's huge. I mean, one day, Pat, the PGA Tour will invest in a second set of lasers so that they can use them at the same time, because apparently there is literally only one set of lasers that exists for shot link in the entire world. So any chance that you can get to get as many rounds of shot link data as possible, I'm all in on.
We might even get some more cameras at Spyglass too, because at the Amex, when they cut the 3rd tournament, we actually got to see shots from the Nicholas course.
Yeah, for sure. And it should make, and it's just cleaner, right? Like the 36 hole cut is better than the 54 hole cut. I haven't seen what like the winning score props are going to be, but you mentioned this earlier, like Monterey Peninsula was the easier course. Now Spyglass, which is traditionally more difficult, is 25% of the rounds. And without amateurs, you probably get a bit more difficult pin positions. Nothing crazy. I mean, there's only so many places you can put them at Pebble Beach, 3,500 square feet. So I'd be interested to see, because we've had a very consistent winning score, like 19 or 17 under par the last couple of years, what those props look like now with just a 2-course rotation.
I had not considered that. The issue is that Pebble can go from being like the overwhelming hardest one to by far the easiest one, depending on what day that we end up getting. So I'm curious to see if the weather holds up and it's not super cold, if it does allow for some of those lower scores as well. And with no AMs, like you said, I mean, Bill Murray might like be in this field at some point if people keep withdrawing.
They're trying. Yeah, they're trying to get amateurs in this field. I mean, you rattled off the list earlier. I mean, and Wyndham Clark is out too. And it was already a field that had like 3 really good players in it. It was very top heavy. It fell off a cliff very quickly. And then withdraw. We are left with a field reminiscent of an RSM Classic and not a Pebble Beach Pro-Am.
I wouldn't even say RSM without Dustin Johnson here. Like, nothing against Cantlay. Like, he's by far the best player. Then it's like Casey and Berger than Zalatoris. I mean, this is like the Corrales Pebble Beach Open.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, Will Zalatoris has already been like, so he was like the favorite, I think, at Punta Cana. I think he was a favorite again at Bermuda. He's got like the 3rd or 4th shortest odds here. Yeah, you're right. It's starting to feel like one of those, and not an RSM where you get some of those, you get the Sea Isle contingent down there, padding the strength of field. We don't even get that.
No, it's bad news. Let's jump into the pricing then. So Cantlay is now the highest priced player. He is $11,300. For reference, DJ was $12,000, the highest priced player of the year. So Cantlay, Casey, and Berger are your 3 players over $10,000. It's a giant field, like I mentioned, 156 players, top 65 and ties make the cut, which is different than the normal cut line rules at this event, which is usually the top 60 in ties after 54 holes. So everyone was always guaranteed 3 rounds here. So it does change the strategy for DraftKings at this tournament in particular. Then we're back to like, there's no more split courses the rest of the year. It's the last time we really have to think about this. Are you building double barrel above $10,000 or just playing like no one above there? Because I think you can make a pretty compelling case that if you could take like 3 guys in the 9s, it's probably as good as 2 guys in the 10s.
Yeah, it's really close. I probably would like to get two guys in the tens if I can make it happen. I mean, even when you get down under like $8,000, this field is starting to get a little hairy, and you're paying prices that, which I don't really care about, right? People are like, oh, well, he was $1,000 cheaper last week. Well, it doesn't really matter. This is kind of the pricing that we have, and it's what we've got to deal with. So don't worry about what his price was last week or what it's going to be next week. But I prefer two guys at the top. I really believe that those, they eat up so much of the win equity. Even Paul Casey, who won 2 weeks ago, right? His Middle East swing was a win and a 12th. He's in theory a really good fit for this course because he's going to be a ball striker. We know that he can't putt. I feel like most people don't like to play Paul Casey, or they don't even know what he's been up to for the last couple of weeks. This is an interesting opportunity. And Pat, do you think there's any merit to, now that football season's over and these NFL guys have money in their DraftKings accounts looking for something to do this week, we're going to get some more casuals in the contest?
I don't know, because I went back and looked at like the download numbers and like the YouTube numbers for this show in particular every single year. There's not a lot of interest in this tournament. Maybe there is. I just feel like most of the people that tend to play or pay attention to golf hate this tournament. I'm with them. This tournament sucks.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, the American Express is worse, but this is also not great.
But the American Express is different because you have no expectation that it should be good. And then it becomes like kind of fun by the end. With this one, like, well, the Amex is usually a pro-am, and it's like hard to watch because you don't really know what's going on. At least they don't cut away for like 25 minutes on the broadcast, like talk to some guy I've never heard of about his like awful golf swing.
Oh, you don't want to see the Konica Minolta swing vision of Luke Bryan's swing? Is that what you're telling me?
That
Pat?
is
That's
exactly
not what you're
that
tuning
is
in for?
exactly what I'm telling you.
Yeah, fair enough. And also you're going to get like the Larry Fitzgerald. I guess you're not going to get it this year, but you'd normally get the Larry Fitzgerald, Kevin Streelman. These guys are actually friends in real life segment. That I guess won't happen this year.
I feel bad for Streelman. Like, him and Fitz have won this twice. Fitz is good. Do you think that impacts any of these guys, that you're so used to playing this tournament a certain way? Like, it really seemed, I mentioned this to Jeff, that when Casey got his new partner at this event in particular, he's like, I don't even know who he is. He's like some CEO of something, but he's like pretty good. He's friends with Paul Casey. And then ever since he became Casey's partner, Casey has been great at this tournament.
There is for sure something to it. Unfortunately, it's going to be different for every single player, but the comfort level of who you're playing with goes a long way. The Streelman Fitzgerald connection is obviously great. There was a great quote from Jason Day, who actually likes the pro-am aspect because those long rounds gives you more time to look at shots around the green. And he was like, sometimes when we play in 2 balls on the weekend, I feel like I'm sprinting around the course. When I get to Pebble Beach and I know I'm going to be with an amateur, I have a lot more time. So some guys actually like the long rounds. Obviously, I don't, but I do think that there is something to it. Unfortunately, it's just every single player is going to have kind of a different take on it.
Cantlay is $900 more than Casey, and then Berger's actually 30. He's 10-1. I think that the want is going to be go get Cantlay. I think that he's going to end up being the highest owned guy here by probably a pretty significant margin. And he should be, because he's by far the best player in this field. Just look at the odds. Now that DJ is gone. Do you think that you can get away from not playing Cantlay?
Yeah, I think that especially if you are kind of mass entering, if you're trying to play a little game theory, the idea of potentially getting Casey and Berger in the same lineup. I don't even know if it's possible. I don't know what you would have to do.
It's pretty
down
easy.
At the bottom. Okay, well, there you go. It's pretty easy to do. Is incredibly appealing. Berger coming off a missed cut, which we've seen over the past couple of years. People are realizing missing the cut doesn't really matter the week before. He misses the cut on the number. He has a little bit of a mini meltdown, but he's super solid in every aspect of the game. He finished 5th here last year. I love the way Berger sets up for it. And then I mentioned the stuff about Casey before. So yeah, if you give me an opportunity to kind of just get off of a very popular Patrick Cantlay, grab the next 2 guys who are eating up a lot of the win equity, who are probably going to come in at some percentage much smaller than Patrick Cantlay, that to me is a much more appealing build.
So what I'm thinking, we'll drop into the 9s right now when I think about how ownership is going to divvy out this week. So you'll have Cantlay as the highest owned of the 10K guys. And then the next move is people are going to drop to Spieth, or they're going to drop to Jason Day. I would expect those guys are going to push like over close. All 3 of those players I just mentioned, I think will push like 30% ownership this week.
Yeah, that feels like the next natural landing spot. I'm very much cautiously optimistic on Jordan Spieth for this week. If he was going to Torrey Pines this week, I'd be out on him. If he was going to a lot of places, I'd be out. This is obviously a really good spot for him. He's had a lot of success. He can use that short game magic, and he just absolutely struck the ball like crazy last week. I mean, by far lapped the field in strokes gained approach. I'm happy to pass on Day. After hearing the comments and knowing what the ownership is going to be, I would much prefer to, if you can get a Zalatoris, if you can even go to someone like a Francesco Molinari, who's having a great year. I'm cool to pivot off of Day in this spot.
I bet Day to win at 35-1. I looked at him this morning. He's now 18 in some spots after that. Some people grabbed the early 50 that was up on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that I might be good with just betting Day and not playing him on DraftKings. I don't know how likely it is for community wins to happen 2 weeks in a row because everyone's already bet him.
Yeah. Yeah, I would much prefer to bet Jason Day this week, although you probably missed the boat at this point. I'd much prefer to even play him in kind of a one and done scenario where you kind of want the extremes, either dude, just miss the cut or win this golf tournament. Don't finish T27 and get me, $30,000. But I don't want to be with 30% of my closest friends on Jason Day in a DraftKings lineup. So I see the merits for him, but I don't think I can actually plug him into any significant portion.
You hit on the name that I like because I bet Molinari as well. Back-to-back top 10s. He had the 15th in Houston. This is the sort of field that he's been playing recently and been doing pretty well at recently. Like even at Torrey Pines, like it was very encouraging. Like it's one thing to go to the Amex, like, oh, you're Molinari, you hit your wedges well, maybe you make some putts, it's all good. The fact that he was able to string together that round Sunday at Torrey Pines and inch his way inside the top 10 was really impressive to me. Like I'm very bullish on Molinari the rest of the year. And if this is Molinari, like not even classic Molinari from like winning a major in 3 tournaments in 6 weeks, but the Molinari from like the year before that, like great tee to green, like can he putt this week? Who knows? Let's gamble and try to find out. He would be like $10,000 in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I think for a lot of guys in 2020, I'm willing to just like completely forgive what they did. It was a super weird year. These guys are creatures of habit. Molinari the most. I think he played 7 times in 2020. He moved his family to California. Just like a super awkward season he had. Finally gets it going again. Now recommitted, refocused on playing golf, and he's putting results together. You send him to a course where you don't necessarily need a lot of distance, and he can lean on his short game, which over the past couple of seasons, is around the green game has been fine. The putter obviously has let him down at times, but that's kind of the mode and the model of golfer that I want for this week. So yeah, for sure, I too, Pat, am very bullish on Molinari moving forward.
And the other two that are lurking right there, I think I don't know if Cameron Davis is going to end up being popular because everyone's going to go to Spieth and Day in that range. And Cam Davis rates out for me really well, very good with the short wedges. And then you have, like you mentioned, Zalatoris, but Kim, probably going to be incredibly overlooked here, has a top 5 at this course as well. And I guess Sam Burns seems overpriced, and so does Ricky, I bet Ricky to win, and I'm playing Ricky. The irons, even last week, really good.
The bottom of this 9 range is awesome, right? So let's start with Ricky Fowler. I am kind of out on Ricky Fowler, right? I mean, we are now a year into the swing changes. I see the irons coming around. He's tinkering with the putter again. We had a chance to interview him for CBS before the Masters, and he was like, yeah, I switched to this mallet style putter. I'm not going away from it anytime soon. Started tinkering with it, right? He uses his caddy's blade putter on Friday. That is not the sign of a confident putter. And anytime your weapon, the one thing that Ricky's been really, really good at over the years, you lose that to me is a big red flag. The $9,000 range, you talk about Cameron Davis, raw talent, love it. Sam Burns. Dude, Sam Burns is legit. And let me clarify what I mean by that. The upside, the ceiling rounds from Sam Burns are phenomenal. So he's played 10 rounds this year. In 4 of them, he's gained at least 3.5 strokes on the field. The other golfers who have done that in 2021 that many times, your man, Siwoo Kim, who's won a golf tournament, Justin Thomas, and Xander Schauffele. That's it. The list is very short. Sam Burns' ceiling is incredibly high. The problem, of course, is floor incredibly low.
He is one of the most volatile players. Like, you really hope that his bad round comes on Saturday so he doesn't miss the cut.
Yeah, right. Because if he does it on Thursday or Friday, he's probably packing his bags. I mean, and also just let the bad round be. I mean, he's literally had rounds this year where he's lost 4 or 5 strokes on the field. His first round of the year at the American Express was that way. If his bad round can just be lose 2.5 strokes to the field, like that's almost what I'm asking for him at this point, because the ceiling is is really incredible in what he's been able to do. So once he puts 4 rounds together, or 3.5 rounds, or 3.75 rounds together, he's going to compete in a big way.
I'm just trying to figure out like ownership. Like I think that Ricky is going to be the lowest owned guy, basically him or Phil above $8,500, which is just kind of crazy. Like I can see myself playing both those guys this week.
Oh man, we are generally on the same page, Pat. Those two guys are just big red X's. I mean, I understand the Phil stuff, right? Which is 5 wins here. You know, even his last 3 years as he's gotten older, as he's crossed, on the wrong side of 45, now on the wrong side of 50. He has still put up finishes here, but it's whack-a-mole. I mean, he's ranked outside the top like 130 in nearly every single category. I mean, all 4 of the major strokes gained categories. There's one golfer who has missed more fairways than Phil Mickelson this season, who have played at least 20 rounds. It's Jimmy Walker. I mean, it's just like a spray show out there.
It is, but I mean, that's almost one of the credits to Spieth here as well, that if you don't hit it into the ocean, it doesn't really matter if you miss the fairway here.
There is one official water hazard at Pebble Beach. Like if you go check like the official stat stuff, it says water hazards 1 Pacific Ocean, which I think is phenomenal. But you're right. You're right.
Because even when Phil beat Casey here, I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, like he wasn't hitting fairways at all. And he was just putting it in the rough and he was fine. Like Phil. And I think some of the missed fairways on the Phil part is him just trying to get the extra distance, which players just aren't going to really try to do with this course. You can't on a lot of the holes. It's a natural layup that you have to take so you don't hit it into the ocean. And if this just comes down to basically a pitch and putt, I still like Phil in that sort of content. There's only so many places that I can like Phil at this point of his career. This would probably be at the top of the list.
I agree that this is at the top of the list of Phil courses. I still don't like it. I mean, it's one thing to miss fairways, because to Phil's credit, he's never been an accurate driver of the golf ball. Like, let's be real. He's been spraying it for a long time. I actually think he's just kind of lost the short game magic that has bailed him out so often over the years. So I agree with you. If I'm ever going to play Phil, it's here, but I still don't think he can make my lineups in a significant way.
I mean, he just made the cut at Torrey Pines, gained to 2.3 strokes on approach there. So this is a much easier field. It's so weird to look at the prices next to some of these guys' names and be like, what the hell is going on here? Like, realistically, like I see, like, if we talk about the eights, you have like Neesmith. He is $8,000. My guy, James Hahn! Mr. Meltdown on the back nine. He's $8,000. Like, is there really a substantial difference between those guys and like the mid sixes?
Not significant, I would say. I mean, listen, you're right. When we get down in even further than that, it gets really, really scary. And I think I counted earlier. There's like 91 golfers under $7,000, like a huge portion of the field. It's not
that different though, because like Hahn, he's fine, he's playing well right now. But like, is he markedly different than Andrew Landry, who's 6,900?
No, I actually kind of like Andrew Landry. Like, speaking of courses to play Andrew Landry, like this would be the week. So no, I see what you're saying. You're saying the gaps between golfer number 35 in this field and golfer number 75 in this field is probably smaller this week than it is than most weeks, right?
I would even say like from golfer 15 to 125 are all a part of the same tier. I would probably go a little bit deeper than that, but you're right. So what does that mean? Does that mean we just make our lineups based on projected ownership and just pivot off of all these? Like if we are splitting hairs on actual outcomes, what can we make decisions on? Is it just a straight ownership play? I think it's a straight ownership play, or you need to get yourself a unique build that could really pop, or try to jam in. Like, your method of Cantlay and Berger together, or even Casey, does generate a lot of win equity. That's one thing. But the guys that you have on the back end, maybe it's enough to balance it out because those two guys have so much to begin with. But it's also far more volatile. Everything in golf is volatile. Cantlay could miss the cut for all we know. But if you have to pair them with like, I don't know, I think you would have to do like $3,000, $6,000 guys in a low 7. Like, you can get away with that this week because there is such a gap there. But if you wanted to go, I mean, you don't like Ricky, so let's throw Ricky out. Let's use guys that you like. If you want to start your team, Siwoo, Molinari, not even that. We can start your team Burns, Davis, Streelman, Homa, Norlander. Have those 5 guys, and then it's someone in the mid 5s. Like, I know that doesn't sound appealing, but I feel like those guys are a slight cut above all these other guys.
Yeah, I actually, when you read that off, I was like, oh, that doesn't actually sound so bad. Yeah. So where does this fall off? Does it fall off after Phil or does it fall off before Phil? Right. So like Tringale, like I'm not a fan. Like I don't like that guy. So like, where does this actually fall off?
I don't know. Like Tringali is one of the hardest people for me to figure out because every single week I look at the stats and the stats are like, you should play Tringali. And I'm like, I'm not playing fucking Cameron Tringali. And then he's like, all right.
Yeah, he's weird. I mean, he's got one of those beautiful swings. He pops up on tee to green stuff, and he finds a way to finish T18 almost every single week.
And T18 is fine when he's $7,300. Now that he's
right.
$8,500, like that's a bit dicier for me, I think.
Yeah, I think I need so in that situation, so I would prefer Steele over Tringale because Steele actually has top 5 upside. I mean, he coughed away the Sony Open. He probably should have won it for the second year in a row, but like I think he actually has legitimate upside. I think Kevin Streelman is kind of that type of golfer too. Streelman's going to miss a lot of cuts. He's going to finish like 40th a lot, but he's going to finish second at the Travelers. He's going to try to track down Dustin Johnson. Like he's going to pop up a handful of times a year with a top 5, and there's a lot of guys in these 8s that their ceiling is like T18.
Yes. And Streelman has an excellent course history here. I mean, maybe that he's not playing with his buddy Larry Fitz that all of a sudden he gets thrown out of whack. I don't know. But again, I come back to Fowler's going to be by far the lowest owned of all these guys. And if the irons truly are back, and it's been 3 consecutive events now where he struck the irons incredibly well, I know that he's tinkering with the putter, but as it turns out with some of these like historically good putters, sometimes it just takes a week. It's like, oh, I figured it out. It's fine now.
Yeah, no, these guys are so weird. He might have like felt that blade in his hand one round and found some feel, and he's going to figure it out moving forward. And that's all he needed was to like be unfaithful to his new mallet putter for a day. Like these guys are super strange in that way. So I always kind of worry when they're tinkering that they're lost, but also that sometimes a tinker turns into they actually found something or figured something out. It's kind of scary.
And I'm just looking right now, the best putters at this course historically per average round. My guy that we'll get to, 600 to 1, Chris Baker, the birdie maker, number 1 putting. Noren, Higgs, McNeely, Rogers, Berger, Seifert, Day. Like it seemed Nick Taylor is up there as well. You have Brant Snedeker, Jimmy Walker, all guys that have basically played well at this course in the past. And some of these guys have a much larger sample than just the times that they've won. That there does seem to be something to these greens in particular. They're such small greens, so there's going to be very few 3 putts, but they're also really, really fast because the wind can burn them out and they start rolling like kind of crazy. Plus, there's a bit of bump into them. That there does seem to be a skill to putting on the Pebble Beach and Spyglass greens in particular.
And there is a Pebble Beach at least. So they're Poana, but I think it's like a weird type of Poana because what happens is the Pacific Ocean is so close on a lot of these, like that mist, that spray that comes off the ocean kind of messes with the Poana a bit. So they are very unique greens. And so I do like looking at not only, we can sort by Poana, we can sort by small greens, whatever, but I think there is even a more unique aspect to the Pebble Beach greens. So that those stats that you just laid out, the guys that you're talking about, I do think they warrant a bit more consideration than most guys, because I think this is arguably one of the most unique courses that we get on the PGA Tour.
Oh, for sure. Anyone else in that 8K range that you'd go to? Like I mentioned, Noren just kind of popped on that list a little bit. That's Jeff's guy. Matt Jones just keeps playing well, and he's played well here too.
Yeah, Matt Jones. I don't even mind going back to Matthew Neesmith again. He's a great ball striker if you sort by kind of strokes gained approach for however you want to slice it over the past couple of rounds or weeks or months or whatever you want to do. Neesmith is going to show up. He played well last week. He finished 7th. He finished 11th here last year. And I feel like I don't know what his price was. I think he was probably in the high 6s last week. I don't remember, but he didn't get as big of a salary increase as some of these other guys. So I'm a bit more willing to swallow the pill, take a $8,000 Matthew Neesmith than some of these guys who really popped up over the course of or from last week to this week.
So if we go into the 7s, based on the way that I've kind of spelled it out with how people are constructing their lineups, I think that there could be significant value in the 7s if you can find the right guys. This is how you differentiate your teams. Like everyone's going to own basically everyone at the top. If you want to own some of those very highly owned guys, that finding the people in the 7s is the way to go. So ownership wise, it looks like Malnati, Varner, Sabatini, the Gim Reaper, Chez Reavie, Scott Stallings, Joel Damon, Scott Piercy are all kind of the names that people are gravitating towards. It just feels like Harold Varner is way too cheap in this field.
Yeah. So after what we saw him do last week, which is classic Varner, right? I mean, and he's so strange because he should probably be having better results than he actually does have because he has the skill set that's good on the PGA Tour, like strike the ball really well and find a putter some weeks, but he doesn't do it enough. I like the way he played last week. The smaller greens here at Pebble Beach are obviously going to be beneficial for guys that can hit them, right? They're super tiny. So I agree, 7,700 for HV3 is too short. And then Peter Malnati, he's one of the names that you mentioned as well, Pat, and he does it kind of a different way. Like he's going to rely heavily on the short game. So if you get yourself in some awkward positions around these greens at Pebble Beach, you're going to have to get up and down. You're going to have to make some good pars. And he is just an absolute nut. Like he's going to make he'll make 4 bogeys in a row. He'll offset them with 4 or 5 birdies coming. I mean, he's just an absolute nut. His fantasy scoring, when you compare it to his actual finishing position in these tournaments, he's routinely outpacing himself with fantasy points because of the erratic style of golf that he plays, which can certainly burn you, but I understand the value in it.
So the other guys that I'm kind of looking at the moment, so Varner, I'm in on, I bet Varner. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Gim Reaper. I just think that he's good. And talent-wise, I mean, I would have went back to KH Lee, but, a second place finish. Now he's king of the castle. He doesn't want to play anymore at Pebble Beach. We'll see him at, like, the Honda Classic, where he could probably play pretty well again. Damon, I think that people just like Joel Damon, so they continue to play him. I don't see what's leading people down that path. But if you didn't like Phil, you definitely don't like Furyk, right?
No, it went when we finally eventually, I don't know what year it's going to be, get Champions Tour DraftKings contest. Furyk is going to be plug and play. Phil's going to be plug and play, but I will just let them hang here on the PGA Tour for a while without any of my investments. You mentioned Ches Reavie, and he actually caught some steam on Twitter last week because somebody bet him at some outrageous odds to win that golf tournament.
Yeah, and how'd he finish again? Dead last? Yeah, he had a great week though. Thanks.
Missed the cut, which is now what, 4 of 5 for him. If you're throwing darts down here, which I think I've started to do, I sorted and I went and filtered by small Poana greens, and Ches has been phenomenal. One of the best players in the field on small Poana greens over the past 5 or 6 years. He's got a runner-up finish 3 years ago. I'm grasping. I understand that. I'm admittedly grasping, but I don't 100% hate it.
I think that I would rather go up in this range. Like if Malnati is sitting there, and I know that he's going to be popular, he rates out really, really well. But someone like Knox is right below him, and I think they have comparable skill sets. I know that Knox is a far worse putter, but he's a much better ball striker. And no one's going to play Brandt Snedeker. And I get why no one wants to play Brandt Snedeker. But is he turning into like one of these like Phil type players where there's like 4 places you can play Snedeker a year? And it's all the places he's already played well at in his career?
Maybe. I mean, the trajectory for Brandt in the last year has been really bad. I mean, I don't know the last time we had a top 10 finish from him. He's probably missing more cuts than he's making. It's not even like he's missing more cuts, but when he plays well, he's putting it all together and finishing T8. That's not even happening at this point. So I do worry that Snedeker's trajectory is one that will not turn around. I don't think he's certainly, I mean, he's much younger than Phil, right? He's much younger and probably has more competitive juices left in him, but I'm very concerned about the long-term trajectory for Sneds.
You could sell me on Brandt Snedeker being any age, like between 24 and 67.
I would guess he's 41.
I see. I would say 30. I would say 35. That would be my guess. This is like when I found out that Shane Lowry was like 32. Brandt is 40.
He's 40, right? Yeah.
He just turned 40. So here's an encouraging thing. I'm just going through the round by round on Fantasy National. So at the Farmers, it's been the one thing that hasn't gone away from Snedeker is proximity from 100 to 125 yards. He is constantly outpacing the field in this range on approaches. And there's going to be no course more suited for that to happen than this week at Pebble Beach. Get hot with your, from 100 yards out, get hot with your putter, which he's still doing, which is nice. His 125 to 150, while not as consistent, is his second best range in terms of proximity on approaches. And then after like negative by a lot too on approaches from over 200 yards at the Amex and Farmers, both of all the weighted rounds at those events, he actually gained on the field on his longer approaches. So that's where you're going to see the second most approach shots come from this week. And if this is going to come down to it's on Poa, he knows these greens, I think I'd be willing to take a flyer on him getting hot for 4 days.
It's definitely one of those courses, right? If we've narrowed this down to 3 or 4 courses for Snedeker and even Phil at this point, it's certainly one of them. That pop stroke, I don't know if you know this, Pat. Brant Snedeker has a pop stroke. I know they've never discussed it on the coverage at all. Tends to play well on the West Coast, tends to play well on Poana. Just try to smash it through those little bumps as we go. So you listen, there's 3 places I probably want to play Brant here, Wyndham, and I could find one more spot. But I wouldn't be sprinting to the window for it.
No. What are his odds this week? I didn't even think about him as it came to the betting card. Is he over 100 to 1?
Oh my God, he has to be, right? I would
don't
say
know. He's won here before though. Like, and this field sucks.
I mean, so is Jimmy Walker. Here, I have.
That's a bit different.
Brant is, he's 100 to 1.
See, I might end up betting him 100 to 1. That's not bad. Do you have an interest in like Rafa, who's coming back from overseas?
No. I mean, outside of like the albatross he made at the Players one year, he's really done nothing, right? And actually,
he blew a Sunday for me at St. Jude where he lost to Berger. He also blew a Sunday for me at Bay Hill when Molinari won. So thanks for that, Rafa.
If his name was John Smith, we would never talk about him, but his name pops up. I mean, he's. I don't think he's remotely as good as he was a couple of years ago, and he misses more cuts than he makes at this point. So no, I've little interest in Rafa.
All right. Defending champ, Nick Taylor out of nowhere.
He went wire to wire.
I know
at this event last year.
It was nuts.
And
he played with Day and Phil on Sunday and like blew them out.
Coming off a miscut at Waste Management, 47th at the American Express, played well at Sony. I mean, there's not really much crossover between YLI, but it's shorter. The greens are small-ish, not necessarily what you're gonna get here at Pebble Beach. You can get some kind of coastal conditions. I won't have him in a lineup, but at $7,600, I'd probably prefer him over. I mean, Patton, because I don't like Rory Sabatini. There's so much love for Rory Sabatini that maybe I don't understand, but I'd probably prefer Taylor over those guys.
I don't get Sabatini. Sabatini to me, and maybe it's one of those things where it exists in my mind. It doesn't exist in reality. That if it's a hard course, play Rory Sabatini. He's good at those courses.
I don't know if that's true. maybe that is true. Something I could certainly look into. I've never heard that before. We thought about that.
Let's see. Where does he play? Well, actually, he came 12th at the American Express, 10th at the Farmers, 12th at RSM, 12th at Sanders. Maybe he just plays really well on like either really short Bermuda courses or long hard courses, which would be strange. Because short course Heritage top 20, Charles Schwab top 20, Workday
he's
top
so
20.
weird.
Yeah, he's not bad. I mean, he's playing for a Ryder Cup spot here.
Oh yes, he will definitely be in the Ryder Cup for sure. I mean, I guess he would actually, if we get the Olympics, like he'll be there, right? Because he'll be the only guy represented.
I think that that is the sole reason that he is now Slovakia.
Right. So that he could be the one golfer and be ranked anywhere. As long as he's ranked anywhere inside the top like 300 in the world, he's going to get there with the way the Olympics are set up.
There are some like bad players in that field. It might be that might be I mean, you're going to have a nice top end, but the back end is going to be like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, you're going to get 4 Americans. You're going to get 2 players from Spain. You're going to get Rory and Shane Lowry. And then you're going to get like somebody from India is going to be a representative. Like, yeah, you're literally going to get guys who are ranked 600 to 1000th in the world making it because of how they have that structure set up.
Yeah. We're going to have, the two, I don't even know who the top 2 Canadians would be right now. I assume it's Connors and Hughes, but it could be Nick Taylor. It's not Hadwin. I'll tell you that much.
It is certainly not Hadwin. It is, okay. So, oh my gosh, this list is so good. Yeah. So Rory, okay. So Canada has Hughes and Connors. That's who's in right now. Hadwin would be 3rd. Nick Taylor is 4th. Taylor Pendrith is 5th.
Taylor Pendrith. Good God.
Yeah.
Didn't he I think he made the cut at the US Open.
That sounds right. There's always like that one name that you're like, oh, look, here's this guy that they show 5 shots and they've got like, they only know one thing about him. So they repeat that all 5 times they show him.
I appreciate that though. That's a move I can get behind. The bottom of the sevens, Hubbard. I like Lashley a lot at 71. I thought he played really well last week.
He did. Okay, so speaking of wire to wire, so Nick Taylor was the last to go wire to wire, and Lashley was the guy before that to do it, and he got in late, and we couldn't even play him on DraftKings because he wasn't in the field. But yeah, he gained 5 strokes on approach last week. He lost strokes putting. He was a tiny positive around the greens, and he was almost dead even off the tee. That is a pretty good stat profile for a guy that we know can get hot. Right. Like I know we haven't seen it since that Rocket Mortgage, but like he's in much better form than a lot of these other guys who are priced in the same range.
Yeah. I put a bet on him at 200 to 1. Do you agree with my theory that these like multi courses, shorter courses does allow for like the random long shot winner to come through out of nowhere?
Oh my God. Yeah. That's almost like statistically proven.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure I wasn't making this up.
No, I mean, first of all, the length of a lot of courses, to Brooks's point, would eliminate like a vast majority of the field when they step on the first tee. Shorter courses don't do that. And then also, yeah, the randomness of the course rotation. I don't think people realize how crazy that is to kind of be bouncing around, especially like a 3-course rotation. It's why we've seen Andrew Landry win the American Express. We've seen Adam Long win the American Express. We've seen Nick Taylor win here. I mean, there is a lot of randomness depending if you're on the right or the wrong side of the draw for sure. These are the places and especially now that this field has turned into what it is, like I'm just probably going to be loading up on long shots for outrights.
Yeah. In terms of the stat modeling in the lower sevens, here are some names that the stats like over the past 24 rounds. Ryan Moore, Tom Hoagie, QAnon Scott Piercy, Austin Cook, Cameron Percy. That's not inspiring.
No. And Ryan Moore has made he's made 3 starts this year. He's missed the cut in all 3 of them. So, yeah, and he's ranking better than other guys. Like it's a bit hairy. It's probably because he's good off the tee and he's good on approach, but, yeah, no, there is so little to like down here. I mean, Tom Hoagie is 5 starts removed from a 3rd place finish. Now, Pat, don't worry about the 4 starts in between because he's missed the cut in all of those, but hey, maybe he pulls a Bryson, misses 3 or 4 cuts in a row and wins the golf tournament.
Yeah, if Brooks can do it, so can Tom Hoagie. That's what we know about him. I always like Mark Hubbard, but it feels like this is a course where he could do really well. He can get the putter running hot. He's good at shorter courses, and he makes a ton of birdies.
Yeah, he was he shared the co-lead on Thursday last week, so got off to a hot start. Him and Matthew Neesmith. He finished T30, so he fades a little bit. But if you would have signed up Mark Hubbard for a T30 before the week, I'm sure he would have taken it, and I would take it right now at $7,200. The other guy that has popped up on leaderboards recently is Sam Ryder. I mean, at least he's made 3 consecutive cuts, which a lot of guys in this range you cannot say that about. He finished 10th at the Farmers Insurance Open, so he's on the first page of the leaderboard there. I don't want to allocate a ton of resources to this range, but if I had to, Ryder, Hubbard would probably be on the short list, Lashley as well.
But that's almost to the point of what we were talking about before. Like Neesmith is great in everything. He's striking the shit out of the ball at the moment. Yeah. But is he markedly different than any of these guys that we're talking about, except he's in slightly better form?
No. So as we start to go into this, I agree more and more. There is little difference between Mark Hubbard and Matthew Neesmith, except the $800 difference that DraftKings has laid on you. So this almost to me is solidifying the fact that I'm probably just going to grab 2 10K guys and just take my chances down here because the difference between Andrew Landry, Mark Hubbard, and some of the other guys more expensive is probably not that big.
Which then pivots me back is I think that people are going to figure that out once they start tinkering around with lineups, that like 9K, 8K Harold Varner anchor might be the move. Or at least have a few lineups like that.
And I think that might end up being the unique side of it, right? So I think that's the path that gets you to a less likely duped lineup. So yeah, I could see that.
Since coming in 7th at the Masters, CT Pan really hasn't done much. But again, I started thinking back to, hey, what's the skill set that can go really well here? Well, can you hit your long irons pretty well, like from beyond 200 yards and not put it in the water? CT Pan can do that. Can't putt for the life of him. But he is good with a wedge in his hand.
He is. Where did he win? Heritage?
Yeah.
Okay, so shorter course, obviously that has smaller greens that will require you to be a good ball striker, and then if you miss the greens, you're going to have to be able to get up and down. So we found the magic for a week there. This is probably one of the closer. I don't want to call it a comp because they're very different, opposite sides of the country, but shorter course, smaller greens. Listen, we are legit throwing darts down here. That's not a bad one to throw.
Stewart would be the other one too. Just another guy who typically plays well at Heritage. Again, he's going to find every fairway. He's going to hit his wedges really well. And we know how hot he can get with the putter. I don't have a ton of faith in him, mind you, but that's where we're at with this tournament because this tournament is terrible. Before we get into the sixes, I wanted to talk to you about you. You swore on Twitter, which I don't think that anyone saw coming. People think like, in your spare time when you're not talking about golf, you're like a pastor down at the local super church or something like that. But you were watching that gambling podcast, the gambling feed that was up, right?
Yeah, I watched for at least Thursday and Friday. I watched every minute of it. And then I saw like 50% of it over the weekend.
Do you feel bad because I feel like there's three guys who are doing it. I haven't watched a second of it because I don't have Peacock, but I am very intrigued by it because I think it can go really, really well. And I'm glad that they're doing it and hopefully they can work through some of these kinks they have. But it feels like they put on two guys from the Golf Channel that should not be a part of this. And I feel bad for, I think it's the Points Bets guy. Like he gets it, but he has no one to talk to about it.
So I described it as a really well executed bad idea. It was the production was great. I thought the hosts were kind of handed a very difficult task and they did a pretty good job with it. They would not have been on my short list of guys that I would have chosen, but I thought they did okay. The problem was the idea that they were essentially going to follow one group the entire time and make kind of random off the hip bets of whether Ben On is going to miss the fairway, whether he's going to hit the green, and they're wagering points against one another is the fatal flaw. I mean, I don't care about that. Nobody cares about that. I want to be bounced around to the cut line. I want to be bounced around to popular guys. I want to get resolutions to bets that I could have actually made as opposed to watching these three guys in a split screen wager if Ben On's going to hit the fairway or not.
Well, let's try to set this up then. Let's try to talk this through to figure out how we can remedy this problem. So I think that you need to have an overall discussion at all times about what the outright odds are for players. I think that makes some sense. That you show the leaderboard, you show the odds. That way you can inform people who may or may not know or who don't know how betting odds actually work. You can catch them up to speed a little bit. It's a very easy talking point. It's like, oh, Dustin Johnson just made a birdie. He was 4-1 to win this tournament. After we're into Friday or something, and he's 2 shots off the lead. He's actually now 2-1 because he's so close to the lead, and there's no other of the big names up there. You can help describe it in that way. Following around a group, just one, I don't think makes sense. But if you had like the PGA Tour Live, like 2 or 3 featured groups, and you checked in with them more often than not, I think that could make some sense too if you do your hole by hole betting. But the issue is, especially with the streaming delay on some of this stuff, is that you might not get the odds in time. So what you should do is instead of doing the groups, allocate a hole or two, preferably like a par 3, or if it's a par 5 for like a longest drive type thing, and to say like, hey, these are the 3, this is the group that's coming up to number 14 in 10 minutes. Here are the odds on these 3 guys on this hole. Head on over to blank to put in your wager. Who do you like for this one? And when they get to the tee 10 minutes from now, we can check in to see how they did. Stuff like that, instead of being, like you said, is Ben An going to hit the fairway? It's like, who cares? I mean, no one's betting on this.
So I thought they had really good graphics. They were really prepared with that. They would show the real leaderboard and then they would flip that leaderboard and show it based on what the outright odds are. So like Xander Schauffele, who was, I don't know, T5 at the time, would be atop the leaderboard and they would talk through that, which I thought was really good. And also I think when you're a second stream, people are seeking you out there. You don't have to do as much education as you do if you were on the main broadcast where like my dad is watching it, right? Like these are people who are seeking it out, looking for this information. And I also thought, I mean, when they opened up the show, Pat, they were like, here are the 6 feeds that we have access to. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. They're going to bounce around. They're going to do all this stuff. They just didn't do it. So whether you're going to follow 1, 2, 3 groups, and when you have downtime, jump back over to that par 3 and just show us who's over there, what's going on. These hosts were asked to vamp while these guys are after they hit their drive to walk to the fairway. That's like 3.5 minutes of time you have to kill. That's an eternity. Like it was just such a tough ask for them, but it would be, I don't want to say easy, but like if they changed the focus of it and they committed to it, it would be a really good product.
It would be really fun too that if the host actually put like if what you could do as a part of like a partnership with the broadcast, if you had these featured groups, is that you could have like a 3-ball at the beginning of the day. People could bet on it and you can follow those groups around. But even as we get into like the back nine, it's like, hey, let's have a brand new like 9-hole 3-ball that you can go back and wager on. Then we can track it. And then like, if you have the host and they're like kind of sweating it too, that would be kind of cool.
Right, for sure. And they did a good job very early on Thursday. I thought they did a good job of creating drama and then getting a resolution to it in exactly what you described. Like guys were coming, they were playing 6, 7, and 8, and here were the 3-ball odds before it started, and we can follow along with that. And you're going to get a resolution to that bet very early on in the show, and then you can start over. But they abandoned that very, very quickly. So I agree. You need to, kind of create the drama. You need to get resolutions to the drama, but also paint the bigger picture of, hey, this guy who was 100-1 before the tournament is now 10-1, or, this golfer who was the betting favorite is struggling to make the cut. And then Friday should have just been a clear focus on what the cut line was going to be, how it was. I mean, it was a very sweaty cut that we had in Phoenix last week, and it was constantly bouncing around, and it was a great sweat, and none of that ever popped up.
All right. So hopefully people are listening. Just hire Rick and I. We'll be good.
There you go.
I mean, do you think this is going to sound like a very conceited question, but do you think that more people watch the live cut sweat show that I do with Jeff than tuned into this Peacock broadcast?
Oh, from what I understand, nobody has Peacock. Like every time I've tweeted, they're like, what is Peacock? So I would say probably that might be true. And I actually thought, Pat, this show doesn't need to be 4 days. As much as I would love it to be 4 days, I wouldn't even mind it if it was Friday afternoon with a heavy focus on the cut sweat, and then like Sunday for the final like 3 or 4 hours getting the resolution to all these bets. Golf, we know, is a lot of time to kill, and if you do it wrong, it looks really poor.
I think that's where DraftKings comes in, because obviously this is sponsored by PointsBet, so you can't talk about DraftKings on it, I assume, unless they want to do some sort of dual partnership in order to get this done. But honest to God, like the cut line, monitoring that, and just go search by the giant $5 tournament or the giant $12 tournament. Who are the highest owned guys in that tournament? Let's put a focus on them, because that's the people care about.
They 1000% would not mention DraftKings, but there's the very easy way around that is, oh, wow, Daniel Berger's on the number. He was very popular in fantasy circles this week. Boom. I have just addressed it. I'm telling you, he was popular. Everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. And this guy is like mini melting down on the back nine here. Or
you can even incorporate in the same way, like just get DraftKings involved with it, have talk to Nelson, get the cut sweat like graphics on the screen at the same time. Like, hey, if Berger doesn't make this putt, the 6 of 6 percentage goes down 22% or something crazy like that. Like there are ways to do this, and that all becomes like time filler, and that is educational to the broadcast. Like, how are they addressing, like, if they're playing like 2 balls and they're looking at it and be like, oh man, like let's take Doc Redman last week, who couldn't make a putt to save his life. You're like, oh, yeah. Doc Redman's actually lost 6 strokes through 4 holes here putting. Maybe he can turn that around at some point. Like, is there a focus on that at all?
No, and that was actually one of my, so the big portion of this show is these 3 hosts making their bets with points, right? And keeping track of that all week, which one, I don't care if Steve Burkowski is beating, Matt Gianella in points for the day. Like, I literally do not care. But I thought there was very little stat or analysis, right? Like, exactly right. Like, oh my God, this guy has, his front nine, he's lost 3 strokes putting. I think he turns it around on the back nine. It was the most random, off the hip. Well, I think Ben On's going to miss the fairway. I'm going to put 20 points on it and we'll see what happens. Like, they were almost trying to force them in so much that they couldn't even have time to tell you why, which I thought was strange.
Yeah, see, and then listen, you incorporate DraftKings, you incorporate some of these simulations in that project the cutout. You get Fantasy National involved and be like, oh, when Ben An is in the left rough on this length of hole from this range, he actually misses the green 32% of the time. Like, that would be, how does that compare to the odds? Like, I don't know if that's too complicated for people, but I would think that if people are searching out this feed, that is stuff they would actually want to know in real time.
Yeah, that was my point. Like, this is a second stream that I have to have a premium subscription service to get and like intentionally seek out. So I didn't want just stick your toe in the water and teach me what plus 150 means. I wanted like, no. Like, here's all the data, here's all the odds. Not even try to be all that educational. Just like go with it, baby. That's what I was expecting.
All
Or
right.
hoping.
Good talk. Hopefully producers are listening. You can contact Mayo Media and Rick Run Good. We can consult or we can hop aboard. We'll see about this. 6K range at Pebble. Is this just like a play your hunch week? Like, is there anyone who rates well from down here besides my guy, Chris Baker? Who's
What
going
about Brian? So the answer is probably no, but I was going to say Brian Gay, right? If we get a couple of courses a year, Brian Gay, who has had 2 top 8 finishes in the last 3 years, he's only like, it hasn't been good, but he's 5 starts removed from a victory. I would probably play Gay, but no, this range is play your favorite golfers, the guys that you always play that always screw up your lineups, or the strategy that I like, Pat. These guys with like really small samples or no samples we don't know anything about are almost better than the known entities at this point.
So you're saying like I voted for Konos is the guy you're going to play?
I was more thinking about Akshay Bhatia, but like, yeah, or Davis Riley, who, just turned pro a couple of weeks ago, someone like an Ogletree who if you want to talk about who misses fairways at a rate of Phil Mickelson, Andy Ogletree is one of those guys. So like these unknown entities that are either just turned pro, very young, I almost lean on them than being like, oh, wow, is Bill Haas going to do something this week? Like, I know what Bill Haas is.
I gave a hard look to Min Woo Lee, but he has been god awful for like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, he won on the European Tour last year, and I was like, oh man, wow, he's in this field. This is going to be great. I can't remember the last time, if ever, he's played a PGA Tour event, and I did the same thing. He's missed like 5 cuts in a row. He's been really brutal on the European Tour. I was dying to get away to get Min Woo Lee into some of my lineups, but I saw that you saw Pigman's in here. I don't know anything about him, but Pigman's in the field.
Yeah, Pigmania running wild on everyone. He escaped from that hospital when Kramer found him and let him go, and now he showed up at Pebble Beach.
Yeah. Kenny Pigman, 6,100.
You got like Zach Sucker, Ben Taylor. Do you play the Taylor narrative? You go every second year. So Ben Taylor next year is what we should be looking at.
For sure. How about
Von
this?
Taylor, Phil, Nick Taylor this year, Ben Taylor next year.
Oh, wow. You can basically make an entire and then when Taylor Pendrith plays, you could get a full Taylor lineup in this thing. Michael Kim. Remember when Michael Kim missed like 30 cuts in a row?
He's made 2.
He's made 3. He's made 3 of 4. He's made 3 of 4. They bumped him up a massive $200. He is now $6,200, 3 out of 4 cuts. Michael Kim's back.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can I interest you in a guy who's missed 8 cuts in a row?
Maybe, because there are some guys down here who have missed like 10 cuts in a row. Who is it?
Nick Watney.
Oh boy. Nick Watney. There's a Nick Watney tracker on Twitter, which I find hilarious, because I guess it doesn't work weekends, which I guess is good. Can we find one thing about Nick Watney that is good for this week?
He just generally tends to hit his irons well at Pebble Beach. Even the last 2 years that he's missed the cut, gained at Pebble Beach. You'd have to go back to 2014 was the last time he was actually in the negatives at Pebble Beach in terms of losing strokes off with his irons. I don't know if I'm going to go with Baker. Baker's going to miss the cut and I'm going to feel like an idiot, but I'm just going to play Chris Baker at $6,200. I play him every random week anyway, and he seems to be like even cheaper this time around.
Yeah, there are some guys down here that are even cheaper than they normally are, just because they're getting lumped with the bottom of the barrel. I mean, literally David Duvall is in this field. He's the min 6,000. So it's that scary. So yeah, I'm taking the scrubs that I normally do and guys that I know little about, because I think that's good this week.
Yeah, like Lebiota's down here.
Yeah.
Sung Kang, Kelly Craft, I think made the cut last week. You mentioned Jimmy Walker before. He's also down in this range.
Hunter Mahan, did he make the? Oh, no, he didn't end up making the cut last week.
I got to check in on this guy. Rob Oppenheim. Guy gets hot with his short irons. Can't putt to save his life. But at $6,500, I feel like he's going to score here, if nothing else.
He can get up and down too. I like the way he plays around the greens. He finished 8th here. First of all, he's made at least 4 cuts in a row at this event. He finished 8th in 2017. $6,500. Rob Oppenheim, who will need to lean on his wedges around the greens this week, but that's the strongest part of his game.
Yeah, I think I can bite on that. Josh Teeter rates out really highly for me. He has made 2 cuts in a row. He's another one that, like, when you run stat models, I don't know what it is particularly that he does well, but it's something. Besides being like friends with Wiley.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Teeter is like the most average player in the world, right? Like, I mean, he just like off the tee approach around the green, he's so close to zero. You know who I was so bullish on, I thought was going to be really good, is Christopher Ventura. And I was really stoked to play him like this 2021 season. And now he's just in the midst of something real wild. He's missed 4 cuts in a row and we haven't seen him play well, but I was hoping his raw skill and he would follow that Oklahoma State narrative and he would figure it out.
I would go to Duffner because, you know, he's the wedge master, but even his wedges have been god awful recently. Like it's rough treading out there for a lot of these guys.
He was on he found his way into, I don't know if it was featured coverage last week or PGA Tour Live. My God, that guy, if you thought he was walking slow 8 years ago and he didn't care about golf, you should see him now. It's pretty amazing.
Roger Sloan is one I think I can get behind. Good Canadian boy. Get him in the lineup at $6,800. Just feels like he's good. Like he always pops. I always see because the Canadian flag stands out. So I always see when the Canadians are like in the top 20, and he played well. I want to say a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how he ended up finishing, but I've seen his name pop up a bit. So that's, I mean, Bo Van Pelt made the cut last week. He finished 30th. Yeah. So 61. Roger Sloan has made 5 of 7 cuts going back to last year. He was great. 40th at American Express. He was 53rd at the Farmers. Like, these are weaker fields than those. So he gains off the tee. He gains on approach. Can't really putt. Can't really chip. But hey, you hope that he gets hot with the irons for 2 rounds and sneaks through.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. I counted like 91 guys, like sub 7K. I mean, it's just, there's so many of them. It's the majority of the field. So you're going to have to probably take some stands here, find something you like and click his name.
Yeah. Find one thing you like about a player like TPJ. He's won here before.
Right. Yeah.
Patty Harrington screwed me last week in my best lineup. I don't know why I was playing Patrick Harrington, but I did. Chase Seifert. I can always get behind a Chase Seifert from time to time. Who else is down here? Killa Keith, Andrew Landry, who you had talked about before.
Right.
Man,
yeah, he's right at 6,900. He's probably the guy, the shorter courses where you have to be more exact off the tee and you can be rewarded for accuracy over distance is exactly the type of setup we want for Andrew Landry. Finished 4th at RSM at the end of 2020 calendar year. Obviously, he's won the American Express in the past. So that to me, he's high 6s, but would be one of the guys that'd be more comfortable playing over a lot of his peers.
Even Kevin Chappell, who's apparently playing.
Oh man, Kevin Chappell.
What happened to him?
Remember he shot a 59 that should have been a 58, and then he also didn't shoot in the 60s that week. He shot 3 more rounds over 70, and like unbelievable. The guy, like, I've got all these little trivia tidbits in my brain about this guy. Yeah, he remember. Okay, do you remember? There were people, and I might have been one of them, who was like, he's 60% of Dustin Johnson, right? Like, he wears the flat brim, he's a ball striker, all this stuff. And yeah, definitely wrong about that. That never came to fruition.
I always just thought he was like mini Jason Day, because anytime Jason Day would win a tournament, that Kevin Chappell would be in like 6th.
Yeah, maybe it was Jason Day that I was thinking of and not Dustin Johnson, because that comparison makes a lot more sense.
So of the $6,000 guys, I got Seifert, Sloan, Oppenheim, and Chris Baker. Those are my 4 guys.
All right. I would like Landry. I would like Akshay.
Let's talk about Akshay. Should we be playing him in Ogletree? Just play, like you said, just play the upside guys?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, Akshay is so young and he's going to figure it out. He missed a bunch of cuts to start his career and he's getting better recently. He has gotten hot, which I like. I mean, it's 8 holes at a time or whatever, but that's more than a lot of these guys can say. So yeah, I really like the upside of Akshay as he continues to figure it out. Ogletree, I feel like he's a bit behind. I mean, he's had a slow start to turning pro. It's only been a couple of starts for him, but like a Davis Riley, I mean, these guys are competitors at the highest level collegiately. Akshay obviously skipped college to turn pro, but yeah, I mean, these guys are competitors who know success, and this is probably the weakest field that a lot of them have ever been in professionally.
Yeah. So Riley ended up making the cut last week. He made a charge at it, and he has had an incredible amount of success on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's been like bad though since he like last won on the Corn Ferry Tour though. But he made the cut at Wampo, miscut, 64th, miscut, and some of these are Corn Ferry events, 24th, 31st, miscut. It hasn't been good. He was bad. Like his ball striking was god awful last week. He gained like 5 strokes putting.
Yeah, there was a time on the Corn Ferry where it was like him and Zalatoris were just like ripping through that tour. Zalatoris obviously continued that onto the PGA Tour. Davis Riley still trying to figure it out. It's not great for sure, but I think it's better than I'd rather play him than I don't know Keurig after Barn Rat.
Yeah, you got to get Keurig on Bermuda green grass. That's where you want to play him. Right. Kyle Stanley rates it well. I don't know how I feel about him here. If you were to fill out your lineup and feel comfortable with your last man in, who do you think that would be? I think for me, it's Lashley at 71.
Ooh,
I feel like okay with that. Like if I'm trying to figure out, I've been reviewing my $200 lineup on the Sunday show and I've lost every single week. So that's a lot of fun. But I feel like when I construct my lineups this week, like Lashley will probably be my last man in. Like that's how I'll work back from there because I feel like he's going to make the cut.
I would actually be pretty comfortable with Lashley as my last man in. I'm a glutton for punishment, so I probably would go down to
Baker, 62.
No, probably not Baker. Landry. I'd go down $200 more and go down to Landry, but I'd be pretty comfortable with I mean, listen, anytime you can get a guy who struck it as well as he did last week, that's one week head and shoulders above a lot of the other guys around him in a field that is historically bad for Pebble Beach. Yeah, I'd be pretty comfortable with Lashley being my last guy.
Yeah, so I think that like Lashley and Werner will be my last men in on most teams. I know Werner's obviously far more pricey at this point. What is he? $7,700. Maybe Gim at 75. Or I just try to do like the double barrel if I don't go to Baker, like Lashley and Hubbard, 72, 71. That gives me a lot of freedom up top.
Yeah, you could make some pretty good lineups with that. You're not going to be able to get into the 10K range, right? We're not going to be able to get 2 guys in the 10K. So you're probably going to build those much more balanced lineups.
Yeah, like that way I could probably do one of Casey or Berger. And then I can kind of have like Cam Davis, Molinari, and then even like Norlander if I wanted to. I don't know if I like that lineup, but I'm just trying to think around how I can construct these lineups.
It's not the worst thing I've ever heard. Definitely much more comfortable than jamming in Wes Roach or Sung Kang or something like that. So it sounds a lot better. I don't mind it.
I feel like Sung Kang had one really awesome round at this course. Wasn't he in? No, maybe that was Charlie Wee. No, I can't.
I think it was.
I think Kang shot like a 60 at this course one time. He was like in the mix with Tiger and Phil.
It was at one of the, was it here or was it at the American Express? One of the 3 course rotations, he like shot the course record at one of the courses. I don't remember which event it was.
It's at this event. I think he shot a 60 at Monterey Peninsula.
Okay, that's now that's gone. So he doesn't even get to play that course this week.
I mean, maybe you can. You're better at manipulating the stats than I am. It'd be funny to take a look, like compare everyone's numbers, like from like the past 3 years playing at this course, and then subtract Monterey Peninsula and see who has like the biggest gap. I bet you it's Potter.
I could do that. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, that would be fun because now they don't get to take advantage of it. Spyglass has beaten guys up in the past, and then Pebble, as you mentioned, is kind of all over the place. Sometimes can play easy, sometimes can play really difficult. So yeah, that would be cool. Let me see if I can do that. I like that.
Yeah. So did you go over to rickrungood.com and follow Rick on Twitter and figure that out? Check him out on CBS as well. Do you do the show? I was talking to Brinson yesterday, who does the CBS NFL football show. You know, he came second in the $15 last week.
I do. He won $80,000. Yeah. I was getting whiff of it because I knew on Sunday as it was closing out, as Brooks was making a charge, that Brinson was moving up the leaderboard. And then of course, when he did finish second, won the 80K, and we have like an email chain that we had going with him. So it was all good. The Brinson Bucks are available moving forward. So get in all the contests that Will Brinson's in. He's going to try to donate some of that back. He's such a nice guy. I'm glad he was able to line his pockets a bit.
Per round average at this tournament at Monterey Peninsula. This is just by strokes gained total. The best players, and this is per round averages. No one has more than 8 rounds. Some people have 1, but Harry Higgs, Paul Casey, Sung Kang, Sam Ryder, Phil Mickelson, Jason Day, Bryce Garnett, Scott Piercy, Vincent Watley, Bo Hogg, Brian Gay, Andrew Putnam, and then Patrick Cantlay are your best players at that.
Wow. Okay. Guys that have taken, so Casey, Day are names that I heard that are at the top of the board, have taken advantage of the easy course. Very interesting. I wonder how that'll affect them. I'd like to look at what they've done the other 2 courses as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they've probably played them pretty well. Yeah. Maybe it's more helpful to look at who has played poorly at Monterey Peninsula.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And then don't worry about it.
Siwoo Kim, awful. CT Pan,
Of course.
awful. Let's see who else here. Harold Varner in his one start, very bad at Monterey Peninsula over the years. Who else of significance? Max Homa is another. I like Max Homa this week. I don't want to bet him at 30-1, but I think his DraftKings price is pretty good.
Yeah, we're seeing shades of Homa before the shutdown last year when he was rattling off those top 20 finishes every single week. I think he's getting back into that. I agree. I've been bullish on him. I've taken some top 10, top 20 numbers over the course of the past couple of weeks. Yeah, I would never bet him that short, but I do like the trajectory that he's back on.
So Homa, Steele, Cam Davis, Malnati, all players who have, and Streelman, weirdly enough, are players that have struggled at Monterey comparatively to the rest of this field over the years.
I love that. I love that because those are guys that didn't even take advantage of the easiest course and they were still able to, especially Streelman, who's had a bunch of great finishes. I love that. Those all sound like names to me that I will probably be investigating further.
So yeah, you dig into that. You let me know how the results turn out and we'll share it around with the people. All right.
Love it.
Thank you for lending so much of your time today.
Of course, always good to hop on with you, Pat. I don't get to do it every week. So when the opportunity is presented, I'll be here.
When they contact us to do the gambling feed or the DraftKings feed, we can just talk to each other every week about golf.
Sign me up. Just send over the details. I'll be there.
All right. I'll send over the contract. I'll be give 95% of the money to Pat, 5% to Rick. We'll be good to go.
Love it. Just let me talk about golf and betting every single week. We'll do it.
All right. You can follow Rick on Twitter at RickRunGood. You can go to rickrungood.com as well and check him out on the CBS podcast and on YouTube on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. For me, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me, become a member at fantasynational.com/Mayo at the end for that 20% discount. Smash the like and enter that draw for $100 for daily fantasy sports picks and bets. My one and done show will be very quickly up there on Wednesday morning. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!